Hey Siri, what is 90% of 1.4 billion?
It's 0.9.
Well, it's such a huge number, even Siri can't manage to do that. A warm welcome to the channel on Tuesday, the 10th of January 2022. And this title, yes, let's have a look. Almost 90% of people in China will be infected or have been infected by COVID-19 official. This is from the company Life magazine, most probably. It says that on the top right-hand side. Now, I sort of can actually understand that and think, yeah, that's pretty much true. Because near enough every day I will speak to possibly 5 or 10 Chinese people in Shanghai, Hong Kong, or in mainland China. And with that, I would say every one of those people have had COVID. Some have been asymptomatic, they've had a small cough, a cold, some have had a fever and have felt pretty bad for a couple of days. And this is spreading like wildflower. And in the hospitals, it does look like this, according to the South China Morning Post. When you are ill in China and if you have a fever, you don't go to the hospital. Sorry, you go to the hospital compared to the West, where you would just go to the doctor's clinic, or you would do in the UK. They would check your temperature and give you a prescription. You would go to the pharmacy and you would get some painkillers, or you may need some antibiotics, etc. In China, it's very different. Most people would go to the hospital and they would have an IV drip there, and they would sit in the hospital for a couple of hours for a fever. It's very different there. So this is why the hospitals are overwhelmed at the moment. But the doctors and nurses are having a bit of fun to relieve the stress of their very complicated and many hours working life at the moment. And it's all related to the designer brands. Chinese New Year is in just under 2 weeks' time. In fact, I do believe it's in 11 days' time, and a lot of people will be actually traveling back to their hometown. It's usually, before COVID-19, the biggest migration in the world, with over 1.1 billion people over the 2-week holiday, near enough, traveling to their relatives or to their hometown or whatever. The roads can be quite chaotic. The trains will be jam-packed. The airplane, if you haven't got your air ticket now, will basically forget it. All the tollways will be free, so more people will take the car. The border between Hong Kong and mainland China, that nearest city is called Shenzhen, actually looks like this of the last report. Related to the Chinese New Year travel, this is like a 20 lane highway, 10 lanes either side, and this would be a normal day. Imagine this jam-packed, and that's what it will be like up to the build-up of Chinese New Year and towards the end of it, which is 14 days' time, which will be the Lantern Festival. So an update of if Chinese people do travel overseas. This is the requirement. They need to have health insurance, which is 1. 2, they will need to show evidence of the COVID-19 vaccination, minimum of 2 doses. And 3, they will need to have a PCR test just to leave the country. Now, if these Chinese people go to America, South Korea, Japan, England, they may have a random check and they will be checked for their COVID vaccine as well. And if it's digital, it has to be scanned, etc. Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam don't require the actual PCR test when they arrive, but before they leave, when they get on the airplane, they need to show this to the airline check-in person there. Then if they have all the requirements, then off they go. So if you are traveling and you are Chinese, basically these are the 3 things you require. Your COVID-19 vaccination certificate, maybe this is digital. You would need health insurance for Thailand, 7 days minimum health insurance and $10,000 to cover that, it included in that. You would need a PCR test 48 hours before you depart, and that's all you need. And when you leave Thailand, you would need to show that to the check-in girl as well. Little bit complicated. Rules are changing constantly at the moment between countries and countries. The only thing you can do basically is to go to your airline, and that's going to be your best bet with the latest information on all certain different countries. In Thailand, they have been welcoming back the Chinese visitors, and here's a small snippet of them arriving at an airport in the Kingdom of Thailand. It is mainly about travel for today. Now, China is very proud of their high-speed train network, basically built by or engineered by the Germans, and they just follow it. And you would see trains like this and going, wow, this is really nice. But for the average Chinese person whose salary isn't a large amount, they would go back to the old-fashioned way. It's not very romantic, but it does get you from A to B. The other part of this title was related to this headline: China's zero COVID U-turn leads to loss of faith in the leadership. In other words, people don't know what's going on. To explain it in a different way, in October of 2022, there was the party congress, and they said they're not going to change the COVID policy. They were talking about long COVID, and they want to look after all the people who live in China. But then suddenly they change the policy, and you're near enough free to travel anywhere in the world as long as you have a passport, visa, and what we talked about before. You can have a look at this article that as years of severe COVID restrictions come about, an abrupt halt, relations between countries' rulers and ruled are under strain. They don't know what's going on because it automatically changed overnight. Personally, they did it too fast, and this is why you have this 90% people in China have the COVID or will have the COVID problems that come with the actual pandemic. But the good news is, I would say within a couple of months, this pandemic is going to be an epidemic and everything is going to calm down. Thank the Lord for that. So it would be ideal if Mr. Xi Jinping, would I honour him with a Mr? Not really, would be to step down. He's obviously not going to, but to get a ruler like the old days of New China when there was a lot more freedom, and it really is sort of like a dictatorship. People in China, they just continue with their lives, they just accept it, and they move on with their lives. I know people in the West or in different countries find it very strange, but they live in a country where they have no choice. There are lots of shills who would deny all the facts, and it's quite easy to catch them out every time they make a statement, and then you can follow it up by actually speaking to real Chinese people, which is exactly what I do every day. So I wish the shills would actually speak to real people, not talk amongst themselves about how wonderful Xi Jinping is and the government, when we all know, hands down, face down, that the government in China just really sucks. And it's mainly because of one person, Xi Jinping, who's named himself emperor or dictator for life. That brings us to a close for today. Like, subscribe and share. Hit the notification button, hit all, because when a video does come out, you will be notified like that. You can follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Facebook, all the links are on the homepage there. And if you do feel obliged to support this channel financially, hit the join button, hit the super thanks button, or go to Patreon there. All the links are in the description below. My name is James, thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.